let's talk about the single greatest strategic failure in growth. It's something I call the feature illusion. It's this belief that a better product is one with more capabilities, while completely ignoring the neurological fact that users churn because they can't find the one thing that actually works for them. Now, this simple, kind of counterintuitive idea, it's the absolute key to unlocking sustainable growth, but so many companies miss it. So in this explainer, we're diving deep into the one strategic moment that predicts long-term user retention. It's called the activation moment, and together we're going to explore how the most successful companies in the world isolate it, engineer it, and use it to stop churn for good.
So here's our game plan. First, we're going to diagnose this massive strategic failure that plagues so many products. Then we'll put on our detective hats and uncover the real psychological reasons users just leave. From there, we'll unlock the secret of the activation moment and the powerful science that makes it tick. Then we'll shift gears into a practical step-by-step framework so you can engineer your own aha moment. And finally, we'll get to the core insight that can make success for your users and your product pretty much inevitable. All right, let's jump right in. We're going to start by framing a problem that is so common, so deeply wired into how we think about building things that most companies don't even see it, even as it's quietly sinking their growth. I want you to just let that sink in for a second. This statement is so powerful because it just flips everything we've been taught on its head, right? We're all trained to think that a better product means more features, more buttons, more options, more power. But this quote reveals a deeper neurological truth. See, retention isn't about the breadth of your features, it's about the depth and speed of a single successful aha moment. Users don't leave because something's missing. They leave because they get lost before they find the one thing that truly matters. So this leads us to the central, kind of uncomfortable question. What if all that hard work, all those late nights, all those new features you've shipped, what if they are the very things causing your users to churn? I know, it's a tough pill to swallow, but it exposes this critical flaw in so much product strategy. We assume that adding more value will equal more retention. But what often happens is that more features just create a maze of complexity, leading new users straight to a dead end of frustration before they ever experience the magic. And this number? This shows you the sheer scale of the crisis. 80%. That is how much potential software revenue is just lost in that tiny but crucial gap between a user signing up and getting their first meaningful win. This is the classic leaky bucket problem in its starkest reality. You work so hard to fill that bucket with new users, but 8 out of every 10 just slip right through the cracks, almost immediately, before they ever see the value. This is the exact problem the activation moment is engineered to solve. So that massive 80% leak forces us to ask a critical question. Why is this happening on such a huge scale? Well, the answer lies in a super common yet totally fatal onboarding mistake. Let's dig into the root cause, a phenomenon we can just call the feature dump. This slide really lays out the fundamental disconnect. Over on the left, you've got the flawed conventional wisdom. Hey, let's show off the entire product. More features means more value, right? And that thinking inevitably leads to these long, confusing, multi-step onboarding tours. But the neurological truth, on the right, is the complete opposite. You have to isolate one and only one critical action. Why? Because from your brain's perspective, too many choices just create fatigue. Long-term retention hinges entirely on getting a single, fast win. The first weapon that this feature dump uses against your user is cognitive load. Think of it like a mental bandwidth or your computer's RAM. Every new user shows up with a finite amount. So when you greet them with a cluttered interface, endless pop-up tutorials, and a dozen different things to click, you're maxing out that bandwidth instantly. And the brain's self-preservation instinct when it gets overwhelmed isn't to try harder, it's to shut down and escape. And that's when they quit. And this high cognitive load leads directly to its toxic twin, decision fatigue. Really, they're just two sides of the same coin. Every choice you force on a new user, complete your profile, watch this tutorial, invite your team, set your preferences, it's like a small withdrawal from their willpower bank. After just a few minutes, their ability to make good decisions is just depleted. And the easiest, most logical choice for them becomes closing the tab and never, ever coming back. Okay, so we've diagnosed the problem. Cognitive load and decision fatigue are the twin engines of churn. We know that overwhelming our users is a dead end. So now let's pivot to the solution. And it's an elegant, powerful strategy that's built around one core secret, the activation moment. Let's be crystal clear about what this is. The activation moment isn't some vague, good first experience. No, it is the one specific,
measurable milestone where a user's mindset fundamentally shifts. It's the precise point where they go from trying out your product to actually relying on it. It's the ultimate antidote to churn because it marks the birth of a habit. It is the moment the light bulb flicks on.
So how do you find this pivotal moment? Well, you hunt for something called the magic number. This is the tangible, quantifiable behavior that your most loyal, long-term customers all did early on in their journey. It's not a guess, it's a data-driven discovery. It's like a clue that's hidden in the behavior of your best users. It is the single action that directly correlates with whether a user stays for years or leaves after a day. And these examples really make the concept click. You've got Facebook's growth team, who discovered that if a user added 7 friends in their first 10 days, they got it. They understood the value, and they almost never left. For Slack, it wasn't about just signing up. It was when a team had sent a critical mass of 2,000 messages. That's when Slack became their virtual office. And for Dropbox, the magic was so beautifully simple. Just get a user to put one file in one folder on one device. That single action demonstrated the entire core value. So, once you know your magic number, your entire focus shifts to a single, non-negotiable metric, time to value, or TTV. This measures, down to the second, how long it takes a brand new user to get to that activation moment. Your whole onboarding process should be completely obsessed with shrinking this time, driving it as close to zero as you possibly can. Because in a competitive market, the product with the lowest TTV wins, period. The faster a user gets that first win, the higher the odds they'll stay forever. All right, now let's get into the why. Why does this work so incredibly well? We need to look at the psychology. What is actually happening inside the user's brain that makes getting to that aha moment so quickly, so efficiently, so effective at forming a new habit? This whole strategy basically works because it hacks a powerful cognitive bias known as the Endowed progress effect. You see, we are all psychologically hardwired to finish things we've already started. It's just how our brains work. So by engineering an early, easy win, getting the user to their magic number in seconds, you create this artificial sense of progress. And that feeling of being already on your way dramatically increases your motivation and commitment to see things through. And that is the core neurological benefit right there. That first taste of success does way more than just provide a fleeting good feeling. It acts as a powerful anchor in the brain. It's the moment your product gets recategorized from a chore I have to learn, which feels like effort, to a valuable tool that helps me succeed, which feels rewarding. This is the first critical loop in building a long-term, effortless habit.
And this all culminates in what psychologists call insight learning, that sudden flash of understanding, the true aha moment. When a user suddenly gets it, when they see exactly how your product solves their specific problem, it triggers a rush of dopamine. And this isn't just a fleeting feeling of happiness. It creates a durable neurological bond that makes that user want to come back and experience that success again and again and again.
Okay, so we've covered the what and the why. We get the psychology. Now it's time to get tactical. How do you actually build this for your own product? Let's move from theory to a clear, actionable framework you can use to start engineering your own aha moment, like today. It's a pretty straightforward 3-step process. First, you execute what's called a retrospective cohort audit. That's just a fancy way of saying look back at your data. Separate the users who stuck around from those who churned, and find out what common behaviors the retained group performed early on. Second, you analyze that data to define your magic number, that one quantifiable action. And third, and this is the most critical part, you ruthlessly strip the path to activation. You eliminate every single non-essential step that stands between a new user and that magic number. This question right here is the key to mastering step 3. I really want you to think about this for your own product. What are all the things you ask users to do that are not absolutely 100% critical for them to experience that core value? This strategy is called friction deferral, and it's simple. Your job is to identify every single point of friction and aggressively postpone it until after the user has had their aha moment and is actually motivated to do more. And just take a look at these examples. What's so crucial to understand is how common and, seemingly harmless these steps are. Completing a profile, watching a tutorial, connecting accounts, they all feel like productive onboarding, but they are all friction. Every single one delays that time to value. The goal isn't to get rid of them forever, but to strategically move them until after the user is activated and actually wants to complete them.
This brings us to our final and, I think, most profound section. Because when you implement this strategy correctly, you end up achieving more than just better retention. You arrive at a core insight that fundamentally changes how you view growth itself.
And this is the central takeaway. We have to reframe retention. It is not a marketing problem that you can solve with clever campaigns or email funnels. At its core, retention is an engineering problem. It's about the systematic, deliberate design of an experience that's optimized for the cold, hard logic of human habit formation. It's about accepting that you have mere seconds to prove your value and then building a system to do exactly that.
And we'll end with this thought. The goal of this entire system isn't to push people through a funnel, it is to pull them toward value. By identifying that one moment that truly matters and then ruthlessly clearing the path for every single user to reach it, you transform a fragile trial into a durable relationship. You are no longer just hoping for success, you're engineering it. You are making success for your user inevitable.